There he is, Dr. Matt.
What's happening?
What's up, man? We
How
got
you
you all
doing?
situated, I think.
Gotta love technology.
Technology, it just gets better and worse at the same time.
Yeah, I guess we just kind of get used to it a certain way, right? And then it's stupid.
It's
So,
yeah, the internet is always a funny thing to me too, because
mhm.
obviously everybody has to pay for it.
Yeah,
Um, and whether it works or not, you have to pay for it. Now you can call and bitch and moan to your provider and say, "Hey, what you sold me, this bag of goods you sold me, I'm not getting it, so I'd like you to fix it." And they say, "Kick rocks."
yeah, pretty much.
Well, sir, it's probably your fault, and they'll list 9
Mhm.
reasons in the same sort of scenarios. Let's start with
Did you
disconnecting your internet.
did
Let's
you
start
turn
with
it off and
unplugging you
on? Yeah,
reset your modem, and it's just like,
right.
"Oh my god, you guys, this is 2022. That's not none of that is the problem anymore. You're not giving me what I'm paying for." Must be nice to have a business that
Yeah,
runs
right.
that way, right?
Totally, totally. Yeah, you're just like at their mercy, or maybe one other company you could go to if you have poor
Yeah.
service. But
Yeah, like I
yeah,
call them the communists because
yeah,
really there's not much there's not many, at least in our neck of the woods, there's
yeah,
almost 0 choices.
right.
Um,
Yeah. Well, it works well most of the time.
Most of the time we're
Most
good.
of the time.
Like my cousin always says, "Well, hey man, it's gotta go to space and back. Give it a break." And I said, "Dude, do you know how long we've been in space? I mean, you're saying we can't get better? I mean, what?"
Right, right, yeah,
Again,
like, this is, like, normal.
yeah,
Right,
progression is kind of the thing we've been doing. I mean, here we
right.
are. We're having a live stream, which no one even knew about
That's true.
10 years ago.
Very true.
But if that's going to be the case, then listen, if you're going to tell me it's going to work this way, can I just get that
Yeah,
90% of the time
yeah,
and don't always make it my fault?
right, right.
That's my favorite one too. Well, sir, it's better off if you just get one of the modems we recommend. I
Mhm.
have your modem. It,
Right.
you brought it and hooked it up for
Yeah,
me. I literally
yeah,
did that for this very reason. And here we are having this discussion
exactly.
of selling me, you should be between 400 and 800 megabits per second.
Ah,
I'm at 42.
you should
Well, we're
yeah,
not guaranteeing
clear.
those speeds. No, no, no. I understand. You've given me a broad range 400 to 800.
Right,
I'm
right.
at 42.
Yeah,
I think we should do better.
yeah,
Let's just do better.
that's right.
Good
That's right.
grief. But here we are.
Here we are. We made it, at least for now.
I digress. Yes, for
Mhm.
now we've made it. For now we've made it.
Yep.
Well, how are you otherwise?
I'm doing alright. I'm doing alright. Just got back from that conference in Arizona, which was pretty cool. Got to
Yeah, you've been traveling a little bit lately.
hear some good talks from some good docs and
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you for those books again, by the way. That's
oh, yeah, you're welcome.
I'm
Yeah,
super excited to get into
happy to
those.
do it. Yeah. Did you
Yeah.
check them out at all? A little bit?
Haven't yet. I've
Yeah.
got 1.5 books I'm reading right now, but
Okay.
I'll
Yeah,
be
yeah.
I'll be there very soon. Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty, yeah, it should be a pretty good story for you.
Yeah, I'm excited to read those
Mhm,
for sure.
mhm.
Yeah. Excited to read those.
So,
Well, it's cool you got to see
but
those people and you got to go,
mhm.
mingle
Yeah,
with some of the greats. That was
yeah,
really cool.
yeah, definitely, and,
Yeah.
it's, yeah, just getting back in the swing of things. Little bit of a crazy day,
Mhm.
yesterday, today, so kinda we're getting emails done and dealing with all that, so anyway,
Yep.
yeah, it's all
Getting
good.
getting back in the swing. Yeah,
Back in
for
the swing.
sure. For sure. I'm really disappointed you didn't bring your sticks out there, but I understand you didn't have much time. You
Dude,
know.
we oughta seriously, like, if we decide ever to do a golf trip there, the place we went would have been a that'd be a place to go.
I think most places in Arizona are winners at this
Yeah,
point. So
yeah,
there's plenty of golf courses. And really, it doesn't take much for me to, if it's green and you can hit a
yeah.
golf ball on it, I'm okay with it.
Well, the only grass in Tucson is golf courses.
It's right.
That's it.
Exactly.
No,
That's it.
I'm dead serious.
No,
It's
I
yeah,
know.
I
That's
mean,
it. That's it.
you don't
Yeah.
see
There's
any it's all just desert other than that.
rocks and dirt and golf courses.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is
Which, as it should be. I mean, it's a desert. I mean, honestly, we could
right.
say
Shouldn't
that
even have golf
we
courses
could have
around
an
here.
argument. No one should be living there, period.
Right,
But,
right.
yeah, here we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to kind of dive into our new topic about mentors
Yeah.
and the importance of mentors. And I mean, what a mentor is really is
Mhm.
there's a lot of ways you could go with that. But I honestly, my personal experience and everything that I've done, I really never had one.
Mhm.
And I mean, I could say my dad was in some ways,
Yeah.
but in the directions that I went, he didn't have the ability really to be a mentor. I mean, there was a little bit early on with what I was doing, but for the
Yeah.
most part, I was self-taught. And listen, that wasn't solely just because people weren't available to me. It's not a poor me scenario.
Right.
I made a lot of those choices on my own just based on my personality. And
Mhm.
that's part of what I want to talk about tonight is, you know, me thinking I didn't need one
Yeah.
was part of the scenario, or I could figure it out faster on my own.
Right.
So it wasn't like I didn't have the availability of one. I just chose not to seek one out. And I don't recommend doing that. I really don't. I mean, listen,
Yeah.
you have to
Yeah.
have guidance from people. We talk about this
Yeah.
a lot about having a team, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Having supportive people around you. And it's really important that people have that. So, getting into mentors, I know you had some,
Mhm.
especially in your early years, and
Yeah.
there's good ones and bad ones, but
Mhm.
um I mean, if you wanted to kind of just dive in a little bit on your experience with mentors and the
Yeah.
importance of them and how to get a good one, bad one, what the effects of you, I guess, in the last 20 years on
Yeah.
having one.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I think we all get into kind of what we're interested in our career or whatever hobbies or whatever because of someone around us, right? Like
Mhm.
somebody that we, see and somebody that we connect to that's doing it, or we just get interested, right? Because we see that. And I think that's important, right? Like you have those people that are, in um, your sphere, your space that are allowing you to be to learn from them and that inspire you. I think is really
Right.
kind of the way that I look at it. And so I've got looking back on my career, even prior to becoming a naturopathic doctor, I think just some of the people that were I don't know if they were necessarily mentors, but they're people that you kind of were intrigued by, that you looked up to, that you kind of thought,
Mhm.
wow, that's kind of cool what they do. And so you sort of start, picking their brain a little bit here and there. You might ask a question or kind of just, you know, get kind of more and more interested. And then, of course, I think so. That's kind of like, I guess, where it started for me was just sort of like in that kind of space, right? Like having people
Mhm.
around me that made me kind of like, oh, wow, that's interesting. I like to know more about that, and just kind of getting in that space. But then once I kind of decided what I wanted to do, then, really getting into um, getting into it, I do think it's super important to find people that can just sort of take you under their wing
Right.
and show you what to do and let you fail too, like not just to prop
Yeah.
you up, but to be somebody that can support you. And I think early on in my career I didn't have that, and I didn't, well, I thought I would have it and then I didn't, and then it kind of all kind of just went sideways for a while.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And then I did land with people that were mentors,
Mhm.
and a few people that definitely were able to um, you know, especially in the field of medicine, kind of like give you some advice, show you the ropes, show you some uh, models to follow and things like that. And I
Mhm.
think that it was just so nice not to have to reinvent the wheel,
Right.
and I'm a little bit like you in the sense I kind of get this sort of like, oh, I can do it on my own, a little bit, or kind of get this kind of sense of yeah, I don't need anyone else. And
Right.
I I mean, that's or I can figure it out. And yeah, you probably can figure it out, but
You
it's
eventually will get
a
there.
lot harder
Yeah.
to do it that way.
It's a slogging process to
Yeah,
do it that way. And
yeah,
I mean, if you're in an arena career-wise or, whatever, motivationally, you will figure out a way to get that done, right?
right,
Um, but is it the most progressive or innovative or, streamlined process? No way, and not at all. And like
yeah,
we were saying, you need guidance, and
yeah,
there's the role of a mentor is, I think, it's multitudes of different, you know, kind of like subsets of what they're supposed to do for you. And one of them, on some level, is being a teacher, right? They're trying
yeah,
to teach you. They're they're kind of overseeing you and guiding you towards, this is what I've done, and I've done this for a long time. Ideally, that's what
mhm,
a mentor is someone that's been in this process for a long time, and they're helping kind of bring you up. So there's that part of that role as a teacher, but they can't just be a teacher either.
yeah,
Like they were saying, they can't enable it and just basically hold your hand the whole time, because
right,
you can't learn without failure
right,
and without making mistakes and understanding why you can't do this, but you can do this. And
right,
some of that is the mentor allowing you to say, that's fine. You're questioning that and you think you have a better way, go for it.
mhm,
Maybe that works for you, but most
mhm.
likely, because I've been through it, trial and error, I'm going to let I've experienced those failures.
Right,
It doesn't work out, but go for it if you want to. I'm not going to tell you no. I'm just going to tell you
yeah,
probably not the best idea. And sometimes, for me personally, I know I'm, again, stubborn enough to say, if someone tells me that doesn't, you can't do it this way, I'm like, well, hmm, I
okay.
bet you can. I bet you can. I mean, I can do it this way for
Yeah,
sure. And and once in a
yeah,
blue moon, I'm right, and or it works for me,
right,
but it's not generally the case. And I think as the role of the mentoree, it's
mhm,
really listening to them and their guidance. And you
yeah,
may have questions, or you may have different ideas, or different way of doing things that you can try, but understand, you've kind of been given that kind of footprint
yeah,
to, or that envelope to stay within.
totally,
And if you bounce off those walls, you have to understand why, right?
right, right,
And I think that's kind of part of it too, is allowing that guidance and a little bit of, you're on a leash for a while,
right,
but there should be some slack in the leash for
right,
sure, you know?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it always depends too on kind of what the relationship is with that person, right? Like, is if it's like a business partner, right? Like you're working for them and they're mentoring you. I mean, that's a different relationship than you having your own system and your own practice or your own business, and
Mhm.
they're just like there to be a sounding board or be a reference or you know what I mean? So I mean, I think
Yeah.
there's different relationships you have, or and that you may have multiple mentors, right, in different ways,
Right.
And that's the other thing that I think, looking at my 20 years of experience, that I wish I had sought more out in some areas. I think just would have made certain things easier for me.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I'm a pretty capable doctor, pretty capable at understanding medical things and medical stuff, but some aspects of that, maybe inside of that, there might have been a different mentor that could, in certain aspects, improve things. And then outside of medicine, yeah, like finding financial mentors, finding,
Right.
um, I don't know, other mentors of just people that have done it before, have done, just, guides, along the way. And I
Yeah.
think for me, I think I can be a little like, I'm like you, a little bit stubborn, a little bit hard headed, a little bit, uh, I don't like to be wrong. So I don't want to admit that I
Mhm.
don't know how to do something sometimes. So,
Yep.
um, it, I think it's a very humbling experience sometimes to really seek those people out and be like, hey, I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. You know?
Right. Especially the longer you go within a certain industry or whatever, you're like, there's a certain
Right.
point where I think that human nature takes over, and you're just, within ourselves, we assume that we're supposed to have all the answers because, well, I've been
Hmm.
doing this a long time. So therefore,
Hmm.
I should be able to answer these questions. And listen, between innovation and differentiation in the way we do our jobs and the different way our brains work and the way we think and whatever, we should be constantly kind of looking at each other as,
Yeah.
that team environment, and the
Yeah.
mentorship itself in theory may never go away. You don't need that mentor as much, but there's a
Right.
point where you may need to reach out. And it's funny because I have these conversations with people, um, just based on, whatever it is, on learning something, or you get to a certain point. Like, my kids are really funny because my son is, you know, as he gets older, is realizing some of this stuff. And you get into the scenario where it's like, I don't want this person to tell me this because I think I've got it down. And there's a constant reminder that comes out of me saying, listen, Tiger Woods still has a golf coach, right?
Mm,
Look at Michael Jordan's career. They
good
all have,
point.
he had a coach his entire career.
Right.
Steph Curry, LeBron, like, I go
Yeah.
through all these sports just
Yeah.
analogies of these
Yeah.
guys never
Good
let
point.
go. They never let go of that. They
Yeah.
have to have that because
Yeah. Yeah.
someone has to be looking outside your little world,
Right.
be objective enough to say, hey, look where you're going with this, or hey, I ran into this. It could be like,
Mhm.
I think about my wife's career and what the things that she does, and they're,
Mhm.
in the medical world, you're constantly reaching out to peers on stuff.
Mhm.
That's what you do as doctors and,
Mhm.
medical professionals,
Mhm.
is you reach out and say, hey, have you ever encountered this? This is a really weird thing. I've never seen this. You could
Mhm.
be doing your career for almost 30 years and never see something, right?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
you reach out to somebody that's kind of in a niche part of that industry, and they're like,
Mhm.
"Oh yeah, this is all I work with, these patients." Like, Katrina does that. She has a
Yeah.
very niche,
Right. Right.
she just went out and did a talk on this out
Yeah.
in Florida.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of these very, very, very well-known professionals are sitting here listening to her talk about the specific condition that she sees all the time that no one ever sees. Or these patients come in with these symptoms and they have no idea what to do with them. So what do? I need to send you to Katrina. You
Yeah.
have to go, right? And
Right.
that's kind of the thing.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
not necessarily a mentorship, but there's that same sort of involvement that happens.
Yeah. And I think there's a good distinction to make too between coaching and mentorship too.
Right.
Like I feel like coaching also very valuable, but I think coaching has a little bit more of a um well, you're like pay for that, right? In a way. And
Yep.
I don't feel like mentorship you really necessarily pay for. I feel like it's people and you can, I guess, but
Mhm.
I just sort of see it more of like a sort of relationships that you build that are friends and guides and
Right.
support and
It's people that generally pull you into where
or
you're going.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like the people that you attract into your sphere that have your back and that
Right.
want you to succeed and want you to yeah, follow in their footsteps to some
Mhm.
degree, right? And give you
Mhm.
some guidance. Um, but yeah, like the coaching, then that would be a little bit more like, all right, I need someone to sit over, analyze this. Here's what I'm
Right.
doing. It's not working. This is working. What do I do? And it's just like a golf coach or basketball coach or
Right. It's a swing coach. It's a, like,
whatever.
Shaquille O'Neal
Yeah.
had a free throw coach. God, I wish I was that guy. Um, Could have fixed him in like 10 minutes. But
Right.
it's the same kind of thing as, like,
Right.
I need you to kinda, like, focus in on, yeah, I'm an expert or a really good in my
Yeah.
field, but I
Yeah.
need more guidance. Or sometimes
Yeah.
it's for people that are flipping careers too, right? And it's not necessarily, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna be your mentor,
Hmm.
but you're coming to me seeking advice on how to go this direction, and I'm the
Hmm.
person that's in this industry, I'm the expert, whatever.
Right.
I'm gonna pay for your service to kind of take me into this new direction and get me set up, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
From there, that person could end up evolving into a mentor at some level.
Yeah.
Although really it's, if you're paying for service on something like that, you're paying for a coach,
Yeah.
fix me. I want to get to the next level. I want to do this, whatever.
Right.
It's a little bit different
So you
role, but
can kind of be splitting hairs a little bit, I guess, with it.
sure.
But I just my first thought on mentor is just somebody that's got your back
Hmm.
and is wants you to succeed and
Right. It's
guide
generally a
you,
person that's
help
older
you.
than you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
They've been doing
Been
it
there,
longer.
been there before, done it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, because I mean, there's a lot to know in the world. There's a lot to know in all of this stuff. When we're talking about health, we're talking about, finances and investing and nobody knows it all. Nobody
Right.
has,
You can't have
so
everything.
and you might know something in one little niche of area and then somebody else knows something more in another. So
Yep. Exactly.
having those people on your team in your sphere it really sets you up more for success. And I think that's really what we want to promote to people, like how can we help you succeed? How can we be mentors in some level, right?
Yeah,
For
yeah. I mean,
people. I
there's
mean, in some ways.
yeah. I mean, even the recent podcast that I just did was kind of talking about all these different tools that people have now, and
Yeah.
I think it's kind of been reintroduced into people's lives the last couple
Mhm.
years ish of, there's this, like, we're on YouTube right now, and there's things you can go seek out, and these people aren't
Right.
going to be mentors, but there's like these tools that kind of like give you guidance to go seek something like that out. Um, and having the ability on so many levels to find that, and not sometimes you may find a mentor that's going to help you kind of get started, or move in a certain direction
Yeah.
that you may never meet in person,
Yeah.
right? You could have
Yeah.
virtual talks with them the whole time, and they could give you advice, and through phone calls, emails, this, whatever,
Mhm.
you have that ability. So people that are trying to get started in whatever they're trying to do right now, or they're trying to look to kind of better their career, there's a lot
Yeah.
of, well, I just don't have the right whatever. I'm like,
Yeah.
you can find it anywhere right now. It's
Mhm.
kind of crazy to think about. I mean, God, I wish 20 years ago I had that. I probably would have been less stubborn, I think, on some levels too, to be honest with you. Like, well,
Yeah.
Matt, I met this guy on YouTube, and you're just like, who? Like, I can imagine starting out somewhere and like,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, for sure. No, I think we have so much opportunity right now to connect to more people and
mm,
find people that we resonate with than we ever had before. And
yeah,
I think that's something that is, yeah, so important. At the end of the day, you connect with certain people. There's people that you just vibe with, and those are the people that I think are the ones that you want in your sphere, and they're the ones that will mentor you if you need that. Um,
hmm,
and yeah, it's so cool that we have all that now. I mean, I so often wonder about my career and my yeah, other things if I'd started it now versus. I mean, I'm glad I'm not. Don't get me wrong, but
oh yeah, for sure, yeah,
but just how different it would be, just how as far as certain things and accessibility and other things like that. So,
hmm,
but um, but I do think there is something to be said for like the in person kind of connections too, right?
yeah. I mean,
No,
we're
not
still
that
human
we can't look.
beings.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
not that you can't look for YouTube support or whatever, but
sure,
I think there's not something about people human to human contact, and especially in yeah, because I think mentors do have a bit of an accountability aspect too. Like they do hold you accountable, if you have a good mentor, right? Like they're
hmm,
going to be people that are, they're just so invested in your success, and that they'll check in with you and make sure you're kind of on task,
yeah,
especially when you're starting out.
exactly,
And we all
yep.
need that.
Yeah, I mean, we need to be checked constantly. I mean, I know
Yeah.
I do. It's
Mhm.
just egos get involved, complacency can happen, and listen, throughout your career and whatever you're doing, even if you're changing, you're going to run into.
Mm.
Oh my God, I'm tying myself up here. You can run into scenarios like I was saying earlier, where you're just like, I've never seen this. I don't know what to do here. I mean,
Totally.
literally in that situation right now
Mhm.
as I'm getting ready to build a small home,
Right.
but it's with a completely alternative way of building something that I've never done before. And so I'm reaching out, and I've been reaching out to all kinds of people across the country
Right.
to try and like, hey, listen, you've already done all these things. I don't feel like I need to reinvent the wheel. There's some
Yeah.
things I feel like I can add to this, which is kind of part of this process anyway. But I don't know what the hell I'm doing, even though it's weird to say that
Mhm.
because I do, but I don't. And it's, like
Mhm.
I'm trying to catch all the mistakes that have happened ahead of time with the people that have done it ahead of me, and
Yeah.
at least not make their mistakes
Yeah. Yeah.
as we kind of get into this. So it's, you're constantly, and that's why I'm saying, like, I don't think the role of the mentor, if you have one, really goes away. You just don't need to
Right.
use them all the time. It's more of like,
Right.
yes, they're always going to be ahead of you down the road as far as their industry and their career, but you're going to run into something eventually. You're like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
And that's the gut check kind of scenario. It's like,
Hmm.
we want to say
Mhm.
I have the answer, but in
Yeah.
reality, it's only because we think we should because of our tenure, right? And that's not true.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Like, there's like this dichotomy, there's like this mix of like as you get older, you have this experience, but then the younger people have a different set of experiences that you wouldn't have, that you wouldn't even know how to really relate to, right?
Right.
And so, I mean, I always think of my dad in that context of being an architect. My
Mhm.
dad trained in the 1970s to be an architect,
Right.
and so he comes out and starts doing it, and they have an entire office full of draftsmen,
Mhm.
so huge tables with drafting paper, and
Right. Vellum paper and
I mean,
yeah.
yeah, in our basement we had a drafting table, and my dad tells stories of it being in college and in his fraternity house, having his drafting table in his room, and all this stuff. That was their, and then that was how they did it. And then fast forward into the late 80s, early 90s. Well, now we've got computers coming on board, and
Mhm.
my dad doesn't know how to use a computer to draft anything. I mean, he learned, like, don't get me
Computer
wrong.
aided drafting, what is this? Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Yeah. I just pencil. Yeah.
he learned, but it wasn't
Right.
at the level of someone that was starting out drafting
He
at a
wasn't a young
computer.
person in college that was, like, stuck in front of that and said, "This is the way you
This is
do it."
how you do
Yeah,
it.
it's coming
So
back to it. Yeah,
so my dad then has to hire people to do CAD drafting that know
mhm,
more than him
right.
I
Yep,
in some ways. They don't know more than him as being an architect. In fact, most
right.
of them aren't architects, right? They're other there are other levels on that road, right? But
Uh-huh,
getting their architecture license and all that other stuff, but they knew the computer stuff. And so,
right.
yeah, here's a guy that has to mentor in one way. And then on the other hand, he has to say, here's what I need. You guys got to do it and execute it and
Right.
learn and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, I always remembered that, I always remembered like, wow, like how important it is to keep not only learning, but also keep uh, flexible and adapting with the
Mhm.
times and with the new things. And
Yeah, I
um,
mean, that's the part I think part of I see this with a lot of peers, um, more so than I'm actually kind of surprised because we grew up in an age where computers were part of our high school, college career, like, it wasn't like we got out in the world like our parents did and had no idea and had to go back to like your dad had to, like
yeah,
on some level learn what CAD was, right?
right, right.
He wasn't, he didn't learn that in school, but we really didn't have that excuse. So as technology continued to evolve, and I think in our generation, it evolved probably the most of
Yep,
any sort of,
right.
discretionary item ever. As far as just, like the amount of technology that's happened within our lifetime is
Mhm.
unbelievable. It's just how fast. I mean, cell
Yep,
phones and computers
yep,
and the internet and the
yep.
progression of everything involved. And I think the stubbornness of what I'm seeing in our generation is kind of shocking to me. And I'll listen, my cousin may be watching this later. He's one of the worst. It's almost like he thinks it's cool to say, "Well, I don't know how to do all that, fancy stuff."
Mhm.
Dude, it's 2022. There's
Yeah,
like the job that he does, there's no way that you
yeah,
can't use a computer and some of
yeah,
the stuff. Like, so how do you not know how to do this? And to be not be receptive to continue to learn throughout your
yeah,
career is
yeah,
bothersome to me. That's
yeah.
like you talk about if you want to be a progressive person
Right,
and
right.
be innovator and all this stuff, well, then you have to learn new things. And so when people come to me and like, Shane, how do you like the whole live streams and the YouTube stuff that I've done and the podcast? And people are like, well, when I
Mhm.
get ready to do mine, I'll just come ask you. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff.
Right,
Like
right.
I had to go and once again teach myself how to do it. It wasn't like I was born knowing how to do these things, and it
Mhm.
wasn't like it was a thing when I was in my 20s. So um
It's true.
you
Good
have to
point.
in order to you have to adapt. I mean,
Yep,
business in a
yep.
whole, person as a whole, you have to adapt.
Yeah,
And if you don't, you're going to get left behind. And sometimes mentors will not be able to help you in some of those realms, but they'll
yeah,
at least tell you, you better figure it out
right.
because this is where this is
Totally.
going.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah, and I think that's Yeah, it's totally true. I mean, in medicine, I think people get stuck in the old ways too, so much of the time. And
Mhm.
I don't know. I was at this conference and listening to some of the things around certain things around metals and heavy metals and detoxification. I'm like, yeah, that's not incorrect, but there's other ways to do it now. And
Mm.
it's sort of funny to see some of the older entrenched stuff still kind of there. And as we move out of that, anyway, it's fine. It's
Yeah.
just, um, but yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because as technology and other things change, people who are mentors may not know as much as you in a certain way.
Mhm.
So how does that how do you interact in that context? But I think the wisdom and the experience, I think that's probably the most important thing a mentor can
Mm.
provide. Like when I look at the people that have been my mentors, that's really what they gave me, was just the experiences. They gave the and the wisdom of going through those experiences.
Mhm.
And that's when people ask me, like, I've had like newer naturopathic doctors or people just about to graduate, they ask me like what my advice is. My first thing I always tell them is find a mentor.
Right.
Find somebody that you can, whether you work with them or not, that you can, like in their office with them. It doesn't matter, but somebody that you connect with, resonate with, want to learn from, want to explore this with. Um, the most successful docs have done that,
Right.
and
Right.
not only in their being successful doctors, but I think being just successful business people and being successful in life in general. They've
Yeah, I mean, if you're seeking guidance and seeking knowledge constantly, you're gonna continue to get better at what you do,
Mhm,
and you're gonna be able to kinda turn that back around and, like, give that back. It's just like
mhm,
that same cyclical motion of just
mhm,
sharing the knowledge and the innovation and whatever it is.
mhm,
But if you're resistant, I mean, I see that in the home building industry all the time,
mhm.
and even with what we're exactly going to start doing here very very quickly in the next few weeks with building. Which, listen, I'm not the innovator on this container build kind of stuff. Many people ahead of me have already done this in many different ways, but it's a very new kind of way of
Yeah.
building. It's an alternative construction, but the resistance to it from a lot of people in the industry is, well, you can't do this. It's a scam. Here's why. Blah blah blah. And I'm like, have you ever done one? No. How in the hell can you tell me that this doesn't work when other people have clearly done it and been successful and whatever, when
Mhm.
you haven't done it, and you're being resistant to the fact that it can only be done this way. Shane, I've been through the gamut. I've been doing this 40 years,
Mhm.
and this is the way you have to do it. Well, 40 years
Totally.
ago, did you have this tool and this?
Right.
No.
Right.
40 years ago, we were
Right.
still literally on vellum paper sketching out blueprints,
Right.
actual
Yeah.
blueprints,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
So don't tell me that, well, you can't do this. Well, it's constantly changed. And I think what's funny is we get kind of blinded to that
Mhm.
in a way, and it becomes this like the resistance is what bothers me, because it's like you haven't even
Yeah.
seen what's changed in front of you, and you have adapted to some of this stuff without even knowing that you did. And
Totally.
it's funny to me when they these guys get kind of hell bent on, well, that's just not going to work. I'm like, but you went from hand nailing framing to pneumatic nailers to now nailers that
Right.
don't even require a compressor. They're not even pneumatic anymore. And you're
Right.
you're all bragging about all the tools you got in your back in your truck. You didn't have those when you started out. So you
So
can't tell me you're
totally.
that this you can't
Yeah.
be. Not
Yeah.
everything works. Not everything's a great idea. But again, it's just like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
good mentor will kind of bring that up as you progress. And what do you think about this? I don't want to do it. Why?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
because, we're doing this is what works. Okay, that's what did work,
Right.
but you better pay attention to who's getting better at these things, because they're going to surpass you in some way. And if you want to keep doing this, you
Yeah.
better be receptive to it. So,
Well, I think it's a good idea, a good way to kinda look at getting mentors consistently in your life too,
mhm,
right? Like different ones in different ways, and especially as you change and adapt to things, there are
mhm,
people that you can look to for mentorship,
right,
I think. If you're really passionate about something, if it's something you really want to get into.
mhm,
And if there isn't anyone, okay. There
Right.
may not be all the time,
Yeah.
in particular things. I mean, I look at like certain things in medicine or health world and somebody figured it out at some point.
Mhm.
It wasn't always there. It wasn't
Right.
always a, a procedure or a product or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Somebody figured it out. So, that might be you, right? In a certain
Mhm.
situation. It doesn't always mean that someone always knows more than you, but I think, finding the people, I guess it's really like looking at areas where you feel like you aren't as strong as you want to be and finding the
Right.
people that might be able to guide you in that.
Yep. Yeah, I
So,
mean, it's we always on this little live stream, we always come well, at least I try to bring it back to, like, playing golf and all the different ways you can incorporate golf and
yeah,
life in the same scenario, and one of the stories I actually heard after during the Masters, I guess, was as Tiger is, hobbling around, I mean, miraculously, he's actually able to play in the Masters when he was told at the beginning of this whole thing 14 months ago, he couldn't even walk.
yeah,
He'll never play golf again for sure. And his career's over. And the next thing you know, here he is, hasn't played competitive golf 14 months, and he's playing the Masters. Makes the cut.
makes the cut. I know.
And
Amazing.
yeah, he grinded through, like, he had a few bad holes that rounded up his score, but whatever. He's there. But they're talking about Tiger's career, and he's been playing golf. He's been a professional since he was 21, and what is he now, 46? So
Hmm.
there's 25 years of a career that he's had where he's
Hmm.
been arguably the most dominant player ever, right? And
Absolutely.
that's beyond Jack Nicklaus, who's even won more majors than him. But the Tiger's success, as they were talking about it, and as he said earlier, was the fact that he was always looking at guys ahead of him, and he
Mm,
was watching swing film on these guys, and he's not trying to emulate their swing, but what is it about their swing that made them great?
yeah,
Guys from way back, Nicholas,
yeah, yeah,
Palmer,
yeah.
Johnny Miller, all these guys, like, what about their swing made them so good during their time? And he was
Hmm.
always searching for answers, always tinkering with things, always looking at,
Yeah,
somebody else, and it was like, I'm trying to adapt. He
yeah.
was always saying, "I'm gonna be the best."
Right.
You can't be the best if you're streamlined into one little niche. Like, my swing's great, and I'll just ride this forever, and I'm never gonna make changes. I'm never gonna
Yeah.
think there's a better way to do it. I'm never going to work on it.
Hmm.
You will fail. You will
Yeah.
always fail.
Yeah.
I mean, something will come along, technology will get ahead of you in your golf swing, right? And that swing, Ben Hogan's swing wouldn't work with today's irons.
Yeah.
Could he figure it out? Of course he could, but he'd have to
Yeah.
change things, right?
Yeah. Right.
So
Right.
it's the same kind of scenario. Like, the greatest golfer possibly of all time was constantly looking at other swings,
Right.
figure
Amazing.
out what to get better at,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I mean, that's you have to be able to adapt always, always,
Right.
always, always.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. That's a cool story for sure. Yeah. He
Yeah.
definitely pretty remarkable guy. Pretty remarkable situation for sure.
And then, yeah, in the same breath, you could sit there and think, here's another case in point of a bunch of people told him, this will never happen. You will never do this. You
You can't.
can't
Right.
anymore. Whatever. You're
Right.
this. And all Tiger hears is no effing way. In fact, he's
Oh,
like,
really? Yeah. Watch me.
"Oh,
Yeah.
oh, now that you've said that,
Right.
see, I was already on the fence, but now that you've said that, I'm jumping the
Yeah.
fence. Now I know where I'm going, right? I
Right.
know what I'm
Yeah.
going to do now."
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was like, if he's like, he even talked about, that got my ass off the couch. I
Uh-huh.
stopped feeling sorry for myself.
Yeah.
The moment someone tells me I can't do it, and all of the great people in sports and in all kinds of industries, Elon Musk was told on many different levels, you'll never be able to make a car that's going to sell, that's completely electric, that's not ugly as sin. No one's going to
Right.
buy the listen. They
Right.
already continually just destroyed the electric vehicle world in the 80s and 90s. Elon, you're never going to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Watch me.
Right.
Watch me.
Right.
Now, one out of
Yeah.
25 cars in California is a Tesla.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
electric vehicles,
Mhm.
cars on the road. And
Right.
it's one of those things, like, if you tell me no and
Right.
this is what I'm gonna do. So don't
Yeah.
tell me no. And that's part of like the success.
So
Now,
funny.
there some stubbornness and some ego involved? Oh, of course
Right.
there is. Are you gonna make mistakes because of that and maybe not be as in tune with your
Yeah.
mentor? Absolutely.
Right.
But you have to be able to allow yourself to say, I've got to figure out a way to continue to go further.
Yeah.
And that's one, listening to your support group and your mentor, and also having that, ability to say, I've got to change.
Mhm.
This worked for a while, and now I've got this like tool bag I
Mhm.
can use, but now I need to add something to the bag too. So
Yep.
it's all part of the process. And either that or you're done for. And that's how it goes.
Yeah, well, I feel like the people that are, connecting with us are people that are, entrepreneurial to some degree, right? And they're
Yep.
interested in living lives that are fulfilled and happy, and they don't want to just, rotely work for a company, 9 to 5 for the rest of their life. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, and that's if people want to do that, that's fine. In fact,
Totally
that's
fine. Yeah.
wonderful. I
A
don't
lot of
really.
ways, way less stressful life. Way less stressful.
Absolutely. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, sometimes I wish I could do that. Um,
I know my wife wishes I was doing that sometimes. It's just
yeah,
like,
for sure.
if you would just solidify this, then, you
Right.
know, I could quit and have my greenhouse on our 3 acres and never worry
Yeah.
about a thing.
Yeah.
We're fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she could
Exactly.
still do that now. But there was a time early on where she's like, I mean, she
Yeah.
told me that.
Oh,
"What if you looked at this job? Just put your resume out there."
I
Oh,
had
yeah.
those conversations a lot of times. Yeah.
You have them with yourself. You can lay in bed at night sometimes and
Mhm.
say, "God, it would be so
Mhm.
nice if it was just every 2 weeks a paycheck showed up.
Right. And I
Just show
think
up
that
and go to work."
so the people that, we're talking to, our audience, are people that are stepping out away from that potentially. And I think that's really where I think one of the best advice I can give is get a mentor, because that's been so instrumental for me.
Yep.
And it could be, I think, instrumental for everybody, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I listen, there's there would be a lot of things that would have been different during my tenure if I had the correct and mentor I had to have the correct
Yeah.
mentor and the type of mentor I needed
Yeah.
for where I went.
Yeah.
And like I
Yeah.
said
Same
earlier,
here.
some of that was on me. Some of that just was just the way I went that wasn't available at the time.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but the stubbornness didn't force me into a situation where I went out and sought it the way I should have.
Yeah.
And had I had that mentor, I would have alleviated a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
I would have alleviated a lot of financial bleeding.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and did I learn things a certain way? Yes. Um, in some ways, I think I probably created a better scenario for ways to do things. In some ways, it took me a lot longer to get right back to like people going, "Well, duh, Shane, that's yeah."
We would have told you that if you would
I
have
mean,
asked
that
us,
was
right?
like, "Dude, you just now figured that out? Oh, wow.
Right.
How long have you
Yeah.
been doing that? Okay." So, listen,
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's
It's
vitally important to
yeah,
go out and
yeah,
you have to go seek it. Like, they're not gonna go knock on your door.
and
Every once in a blue
that's
moon,
a
they might.
really that's
Yeah.
a really good point. I think that kind of goes into some of the stuff we talked about, before, like how energy works, right?
Yep.
Like, and that's the way I see it. Like, the way I was in my younger days, I wasn't really aware of all that. I didn't
Mhm.
understand that that was how it worked.
Yep.
And so now that I do know that, it's a lot easier, um, to kind of put myself out there
Mhm.
to create from that space, and that brings the people to you
Right.
that will then be those mentors and those guides, because yeah, you got to step out, like you said, you got to seek it out. And
Yep.
different people may, you might get rejected around it, you might find there, who knows, it's just a process. You might
Mhm.
have someone who's a mentor for a week, okay,
Right.
or you have someone who's a mentor for 20 years,
Yep.
but I don't I think that all can be valuable, but you still, yeah, like you said, you have to seek it out. You have to put yourself out there.
You have to seek it out, and you have to be receptive to what they tell you, especially
Totally.
Listen, I know where my head was at in my early 20s. I trust
Yeah.
me, I get it, and part of that is
Yeah.
just the time of life you're in.
Yeah.
But if you're listening to us and you're listening to your mentor telling you the exact same thing is you're gonna be resistant, you're gonna
Mhm.
roll your eyes,
Mhm.
you're going to question what they're saying, which all is okay. It's okay
Mhm.
to question things, and they don't have the only answer. They don't have the one and only solution,
Right. Right.
but they've been there, done that. They've broken down, they've made those mistakes, and
Right.
if you can absorb that information and truly listen to it and pay attention to it, you're gonna be so much further ahead. And that's kind of the whole
Right.
idea is just
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
ahead of the backlog of the same mistakes that are made over and over again
Right.
to
Yeah.
progress, and then you can come back and do that in 20 years.
Yeah.
You can come back to the same thing, but be receptive to what they're
Yeah.
telling you.
Right.
That's why you have a mentor is to
Mhm.
basically just it's the fast track. It's the lightning lane, at Disneyland.
Absolutely.
Like, it's like, why
Absolutely.
you're just seeing everybody stand in line for an hour and a half for this ride, and all you did is like, "How how do I do this? Just do this? Oh, and I just walk up here and
Mhm.
I rode the same ride and these schmucks are still waiting. Why would you do that? You could learn the lesson and then later
Mhm.
realize that's what's happening, or just
Right.
accept the fact that, you know what,
Right.
there's a better way
Yep.
and just listen to it.
Yep.
And trust me, I wish I did. I really do. I
Same.
really wish I did.
Same.
But
Yeah.
you know, Amor
Well,
fati, here we are.
Amar Fati, yeah, I mean, we go through because that's where we were at the time, and that's what we knew, and we did the best we could, and I fully embrace that. And yeah, people starting out, my hope is that they would have, some level of connection to people to guide them and help them.
Mhm.
It's a lot potentially is a lot easier.
Oh, absolutely. Less
So,
headache. You know, Dr. Matt and I are only 29 years old. We
right,
don't look 29,
right.
but that's because we didn't have a mentor and we aged ourselves
Mhm.
rapidly because of that. So, you can avoid all of this by getting a mentor.
Totally, totally.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so many different, you can have several, there's so many ways of searching people out and asking questions, but I mean, that's why I encourage all these young people to just go out there and just keep your eyes open, start asking questions. They will
Mhm,
show up. You'll get there,
mhm.
and just be receptive to it. Trust me, it's so worthwhile, and I think it's so vitally important to have one because the
Yeah,
success of that is
yeah,
exponential.
yeah. I mean, I do too. I do too. I mean, I think one of the things that's I think a little bit hard for me to see in our world is how disconnected people are from each other.
Yeah.
And some of it's okay, and I think some of it's a different opportunity, a different time.
Hmm.
Um, People have different choices that they can make and stuff, but I also think there's I don't know, I think about, like, family businesses, right? Like, you just went into it because your dad did it or your mom did
Right.
it,
Right.
and you just those were your mentors in a way, right? Let's just
Hmm.
you followed in their footsteps, and, that's cool, and then a lot of people still do that, but I think w many times these sorts of things we're talking about require you not to your family may not be a part of that, the
Yeah.
people may not be as readily connected to you, and it can be hard, and so
Hmm.
finding those people.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, I guess I can sit here and preach about it because I went through it not having that process and
Yeah.
going back and realizing other people that did and their stories and their environment and their progression, whatever. I'm just telling you, and I'm not opposed to not having one now.
Totally.
Listen, in some ways I have, like little clicky mentors, like very niche mentors on certain things that I'm getting into right now, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Some of these guys are younger than I am, and I'm okay with that. I just,
Yep.
I don't want to waste my time, energy, money on stuff that I could very easily go out and get information on and say, "Oh, well, I can avoid all of that right now because they've already gone through it." And that's cool with me, and that's just,
Right.
that evolution. So, I mean,
Yep.
again, continuing to adapt and allow that stuff to
Yeah.
happen and be receptive to it is
Totally. Yeah,
that's the game.
adaptation trick is key there.
Mhm. Yep.
especially today because things are so rapidly changing that,
Oh yeah, so quickly,
I mean,
so quickly.
can you, it's like, whoa, okay, I guess I'm shifting to that now. All right.
Yep, exactly.
Well,
Yep. Yes, sir. Well, Dr. Matt, it's been a great
yeah,
conversation.
yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah.
I'm
Um,
glad we chatted about it.
yeah, I'm glad
Hopefully, it's
that
helpful to people that are
yeah.
starting out and looking for, yeah,
Yep.
looking for what's next or how to go forward.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
And again, we're here to provide as much as we can as far as guidance. So, you
mhm.
guys watching on the restream, you got questions, drop them in the comments below. We can certainly get to those. Um, at the same time, the scoop on YouTube. If you hit that like button, that helps us out. It gets this information out to more people. You hit the subscribe button, then when we go live, you can jump in the chat, ask questions. It's free 99, so it doesn't cost you anything, and you can stay anonymous if you want to. But again, we're trying to be the coaches and the mentors for certain people in certain aspects. There's guys that come in and out of here. Guys is a general term, so I got to get better at that. People, there's people that come in and out all the time, and there's
Yeah,
between the two of us, I think we've got every answer in the world, right? We've got all the answers.
absolutely.
Yeah. If I don't know it, Dr. Matt does, and vice versa. So there you go. There's no other place to be.
That's right. That's right. No pressure there. Holy
No
shit.
pressure. Jeez. Well, I mean, I just defer. Like if someone asks me a question I don't know, I'm like, oh, Dr. Matt knows.
I'll know.
Call
Right.
him. Yeah. Yeah. Just don't answer your phone. I'll text
All
you
right.
like, yeah,
Fair enough. Don't
yeah.
you don't know this. Don't answer it.
Play
Yeah.
this game all day.
Yeah.
All right, man. I'm gonna go grab some food.
Yeah, me too.
I'm gonna go hang out with the family. You go do the same. Enjoy your evening, and
Yeah. You too.
we'll be back here soon for another edition.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the
Building wealth and
meantime,
health.
that's
Yeah.
right. We're constantly building, constantly. Constantly. Yeah. So thumbs up on the way out if you like the content. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, ding the bell so you know when we go live. And until next time, Dr. Matt.
See you later, my friend. Talk to you
All right,
soon.
man. Have a good
All
night.
righty.
Later.
See ya.